Hi, this is your Yo-Yo Sam. Come on, let's go. Let's bolt.
To all ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is an special edition of my year-end YouTube channel. I would like to thanks to all who have already been committed to comment, and here is the first person that I would like to shout out. And please watch until the end of my video. Maybe your name will be included on my shout out in a special edition of a year-end content. My warmest and best wishes to all of you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Shout out to Paul Ngapaki Official. Shout out also to Bantroong Channel. Shout out also to Travel with Snow Girl. Shout out to Jelan. Shout out to Alma Paklita. Shout out also to Mamta Champawati Blogger. Shout out also to Arjuna Gusung. Shout out also to Merati Kitchen. Shout out also to Georgius Sudar Yunu. Shout out also to Otmar Blogs. Shout out also to Ideology. Shout out also to Nabgit Beautiful World Travel and Foods. Shout out to TB Bible Story. Shout out also to GI Try Giamngit Ko Song. Shout out to Kanal Mustra di Todo. Shout out also to Master James Blog. And shout out also to Oding PKL Official. Shout out also to NTN SL 24-hour News. And shout out also to Rostam Masalye. Shout out also to Patrice Sunflower. Shout out also to Zibig New Siwik. Shout out also to LPN and Livelihood. Shout out also to Bill A. Bibs TV. Shout out also to Debbie's channel. Shout out also to Ana Lobo TV. Shout out also to Penguin Enter channel. Shout out also to Dapur Miro channel. Shout out also to Mark and Tikay Happiness. Shout out also to Mas Ali Agro. Shout out also to Flor Lelias Videos. Shout out also to Lolita Perks. Shout out also to Babin Ranagor. Shout out also to Linda Olivares. Shout out to Itsoy Maputi. Shout out also to Excellent Truckers. Shout out also to DG Kuda. Shout out to Bioli Lopez. Shout out also to Lumaga Blog. Shout out also to Suzuka Aoki. Shout out also to Gato Blog. Shout out also to Rodolfo Boyu Blogs. Shout out also to Jerel Mac. Shout out also Melody on channel. Shout out also to K Farmers. Shout out also to 11 Mawas. Shout out also to K Highlander. Shout out also to Boon Harris. Shout out also to Rick Celestri. Shout out also to Mama Sinda. Shout out also to According to Jeff. Shout out also Noridin Tandor. Shout out also to John Lee Kilanyo. Shout out also to Liu Pubyug Taiwan. Shout out also to Jose Pudas de Madeira. Shout out also to Stanley Karig TV. Shout out also to Jan Gut 40. Shout out also to J Bogart. Shout out also to Rag Sibriel Arch. Shout out also to Welat Bumi GJJ. Shout out also to Sahabat Auto Clinic. Shout out also to Hok Tuan Thai Dip. Shout out also to Imis Pamilya's Blog. Shout out also Positive Laros Positive Banyuang. Shout out also to Ronil Habagat TV. Shout out also to Rita Rock Mawati channel. Shout out also to Pinay the Countryside. Shout out also to Johnny GG channel. Shout out also to Bisayang Igat. Shout out also to Mama Kasmi. Shout out also to Rodian Potra Farms. Shout out also to Ingrid Gut. Shout out also to Subs channel. Shout out also to DC Vlogs. Shout out also to Solo Cyclista Vlog. Shout out also to Nanay Leads TV. Shout out also to Choco Pam. Shout out also to Anam TV Gas. Shout out also to Manny Pacquiao team. Shout out also to Isabel Lee Calvis. Shout out also to My Solo Adventure Vlog. Shout out also to BN Torsing. Shout out also to Jasmine Jid Singapore. Shout out also to DWI Exotic. Shout out also to Kuya Lino Vlog. Shout out also to DG Rhino Show. Shout out also to Kongno 2000. Shout out also to Jaba Story TV. Shout out also to Mita Wang. Shout out also to General Entertainment Channel. This is your Yoyo Sam. See you on my next vlog and God bless us all. Bye bye.